More now on this breaking news this morning. ABC Managing Director Michelle Guthrie has left the role after just 2.5 years into her 5-year term. ABC Chairman Justin Milne joins me now in the studio. Justin Milne, welcome. Is it fair enough to say that Michelle Guthrie has been sacked?
Well, her employment with the corporation has been terminated as of this morning.
And that was because you approached her to step down?
That was because the board has been discussing and looking at the question of Michelle's ongoing employment over the last couple of months, and the board has carefully, I think, and in a very considered way, tried to come to an arrangement with Michelle, which we've come to this morning, which is that she leaves the business.
And why did you decide it was not in the best interests of the ABC for Michelle Guthrie to continue to lead the organisation?
Well, boards are charged with a sort of with a overarching duty on behalf of the corporation to do what they believe is in the best interests of the corporation. They've got a fiduciary duty to do that, and one of the principal things that any board does is to hire and fire the CEO. And we, after very careful consideration, felt that this organisation would do better under different leadership.
And what's been the problem with her leadership?
Well, I'm not going to go into the sort of he said, she said part of that, but that's a view that the board has come to, and it's taken the board some time to come to that view, but we feel that we need different leadership to take us forward through what are obviously very challenging times. And that's not in any way to be deprecating about the job that Michelle's done, because I personally think Michelle's done a good job, and the board's been very happy with many of the things that she does. And I know it's a sort of a tough thing to say at a moment like this, but we do wish her well in the future.
So what have been her strengths over these 2.5 years?
Michelle's got a great strategic view of the world, and she's brought that to us, and she's got, as they say in the trade, a great Rolodex. She's a good networker, and she's done very well from that point of view.
Where could she have done better?
I'm not going to go into that.
But you can see that's a key question today. This is a dramatic announcement. The managing director has left the role after 2.5 years in the job. This is a significant cultural organisation for the nation, and suddenly she's gone. Don't the ABC employees and Australia generally deserve some kind of indication from you as to why you've moved like this?
Well, the indication is that we've made the decision, and that's our job to make that decision. The details, the ins and outs of that decision, I'm not going to share with you, and I'm going to do that out of respect for Michelle and for all of the people that are involved.
Okay, so how is the ABC then placed at the moment? How would you like to see the position of the ABC improved, firstly in this rapidly changing media environment?
Well, I think we've got some challenges, and those challenges are well known to us all. We've got funding cuts that we're going to have to deal with going forward, and they need to be addressed. And we've got, in particular, this sort of overarching challenge that all media organisations have got, which is, we've called it modernisation, and we've talked about the project called Jetstream. Jetstream is a project which will be expensive. It will require support from the government of the day for it, and the idea of Jetstream is for us to build the digital infrastructure which will allow this organisation to function more efficiently and more rapidly, and to provide audiences what they want in an all-digital environment, which is of course the environment that we're heading towards.
Michelle Guthrie came from Google, and presumably she was in a brilliant position to get the ABC ready for the rapidly changing environment that we're going to. Was she able to transfer that knowledge from Google to the ABC and help the ABC adapt?
Largely, yes.
And so how can the ABC more effectively adapt now?
Well, I think we just need to embrace Jetstream wholeheartedly and move forward with that, and that's a big infrastructure build, and it's a difficult thing to decide to do, because we will be building infrastructure that won't be used for sort of 3 years. This is a difficult moment for the ABC, and none of this is a reflection on Michelle, but the difficulty that we have here is that we now need to plan the next 10 years, and that's what we're attempting to do, and Jetstream will be a significant part of that next 10 years.
Could another person in the position of managing director done a more effective job of adapting the ABC for the rapidly changing environment?
I'm not sure that that's the case. I think Michelle's been pretty good on the digital stuff.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this once again because it's the question that everyone's going to be asking. If she did a pretty good job on the digital stuff, where could she have succeeded more effectively?
The board felt in the end that her leadership style was not the style that we needed going forward. We needed a different leadership style, and that is the decision of the board.
And so how would you characterise her leadership style? And this isn't necessarily, you don't have to interpret this as a criticism of her, it's just the way she goes about things, and that might differ to other people. So how would you characterise her leadership style?
You're going to have to forgive me, but I'm not going to characterise her leadership style for you.
And for the rest of Australia?
No, I'm sorry, those conversations, I mean, these are from a board point of view, these are difficult conversations for boards to have. It's a difficult decision for the board to make. We take it incredibly seriously. It hasn't been taken lightly. It's been taken over a long period of time and over a lot of discussions. And I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to share the details of the ins and outs of that with you. And I apologise for that, but I'm doing that, I think, in everybody's interests.
And so then what characteristics will you be looking for in a new leader? What leadership style would you like to see?
Well, you know, selecting new leaders is a difficult process. It's a bit of a lottery, so we will start that process now, and that process will involve us briefing a search agency. It will also involve us allowing internal candidates to apply, and my expectation is that we will have a number of internal candidates, and I imagine we'll have some external candidates for one of the sort of important roles in media in Australia, and then we'll look at those people and we'll make a decision about the person that we think is the best for the role going forward.
But what you describe it can be a bit of a lottery. Why is it like that? We spend huge amounts of money looking for these people. Why does it have to be a lottery? And how does it, sorry?
Well, it doesn't always work out. You know, it's one of the most difficult things that I think you do in business is make selections of employees, and it doesn't always work out. And sometimes it takes a while for it not to work out. So in this case, the board decided that it wasn't working out and decided that we should do a reset, and that's what we've decided to do.
Yeah. And so how does this reflect then on that process that was held, which concluded that Michelle Guthrie was the best person for the role?
I don't think it necessarily does, because that was 2.5 years ago. So things change as we move forward, and they've changed, and the board's come to the decision that it's come to.
And when did you inform the government of the decision?
This morning.
And what kind of reaction did you get from the government?
Oh, a calm reaction from the minister. The minister has, I mean, the hiring and firing of the chair of the board is a matter for the minister and the prime minister and the cabinet, and ultimately the governor general. But the hiring and firing of the CEO is a matter entirely for the board. So that's completely and utterly within the board's hands, and the minister clearly understands that and has had absolutely no part in it. I might just say is that the very next question that you'll be thinking of asking is whether we were pressured in any way, and absolutely not. The government, I must say, has provided no pressure, no opinion, has not been involved in this decision. This is entirely a board decision.
You mentioned the funding cuts are one area that the ABC has got to deal with urgently. How would you describe the relationship that Michelle Guthrie was able to develop with government?
That's possibly an area that could have been better. I think that's fair to say. That said, I think Michelle tried hard and was involved with government. In an ideal world, I would like to see our relationship. I think the relationship between the ABC and the government is on the one hand, difficult because, of course, we need to be independent from government, but it's an important relationship because the government funds us. So, I would like to see our relationship with government improve. And I say government, not the Liberal Party or the Labor Party, but who's ever in government. That's an important relationship for us.
Is that an incredibly difficult role to fulfil sometimes for,
Yeah.
for any managing director?
For
of the
any
ABC?
managing director, for any managing director and any chair and any board, it is. It's a very difficult role. It's very nuanced relationship, but it's fundamentally important.
And what are the keys to making that work?
I think it's important to be very engaged, to be in Canberra a lot, to have a presence, and to make sure, as in any relationship, communication is important. So make sure that government understands the way that the ABC is thinking about things, and for the ABC to understand the way the government's thinking about things as well. And in amongst all that, of course, the trick being to retain our absolute editorial independence.
And how disruptive is this for an organisation like the ABC for a managing director to leave halfway through a term?
Well, I think it is disruptive, although one of the things that I've noticed in my career is how quickly organisations sort of heel over when managing directors or CEOs leave. And I've been in a few organisations in my career where they've left for one reason or another. And it is disruptive, and it's a big moment, and everybody wants to understand it and stuff. But of course the ABC is an organisation which has been going for 83 years, I think, and it's seen a number of managing directors and a number of chairs come and go. And underneath all that, guys like you and the people at the ABC do their job, and they do a great job of continuing to serve the content and news and opinions that we serve to the Australian people. So I don't have the slightest doubt that that rhythm will just continue. And we've put David Anderson in the role, an acting role. David's a really well-known and I think pretty well-liked guy amongst the ABC, and he will step straight into that and do a great role of keeping that all going whilst we find the replacement.
And so that process is happening now, looking for the replacement. What have you learnt from the process that led to the appointment of Michelle Guthrie about how that process should be conducted and what you should be looking for?
I'm not sure that I could actually spit out a bunch of lessons to you right now, but it's a good point, and you can be certain that we will go back through that process, perhaps talk to some of the people that were involved, and see if there are lessons that the current board could learn from that. And we do have some people who were just connected with that appointment still on the board, so we will sort of do soul searching through that. Yeah.
And news came through first on this from the Australian newspaper. Are you concerned about leaks, or what does that show about how this is all transpired?
Joe, as you know, we're a media organisation. All media organisations are swapping stories all the time, so I don't know how they got onto that story first, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me, and it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It is what it is.
Yeah, okay. So where is the funding cycle at the moment? What is the ABC looking at in terms of cuts next year, and how would you like to see that turned around?
Well, we're discussing that with the government. We do our triennial bids shortly. The government has indicated that they will basically fund us the same as they have been, minus the indexation freeze, which is effectively $84 million. But that's an interesting process for us because it's a small amount of money in the first year of the triennium, and then it ramps up and then it ramps up. So it's not like we've got to find $84 million next year. I think next year we've got to find, $14 million, but I might have that wrong. And then in a budget of $1 billion, that's not ultimately that difficult to find, although, of course, cutting money is not a great thing to do. Meantime, what we'll be doing is talking to the government about some of the initiatives that we have in place and seeing if we can fund some of those. So I think an area that probably all politicians and the ABC will all agree on is that the ABC's role in regional and rural Australia is of vital importance, and we've got some programs there which we'd like to put to the government and have them understand. And then as a separate part of a process, separate from the triennial funding, we are working with the department on a business case for what we're calling Jetstream, which is the building of this digital infrastructure, which my personal view is that that's of fundamental importance to us going forward. We need to become a thoroughly digital organisation, as all of the rest of media does in Australia.
And how soon would you hope to have a new managing director appointed?
Well, at this stage of the year in September, everybody says, well, we'll get this done by Christmas, and that'd be good, but I just don't know, because it just depends on the process. But we think it's really important. We think it's urgent. We think it's something that will occupy the board immediately. It'll take a lot of bandwidth from us. On the other hand, we're happy that we've got David in the job because we've got great confidence in David and we think he'll do a great job. And I think David's been at the corporation for 20 years or something. I think he started in the post office at the corporation, so he knows the ropes.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Justin Milne, thanks so much for coming in
Thank
to
you.
chat to us.